wanted to introduce and welcome Krissy Buck, who you might remember from Cambridge Social Media Day last year. She came from all the way from Wichita, and she came to represent Quick, a brilliant video captioning app. But this year, she decided to embrace on her own and set up her own company. And the way she helped other organizations to grow communities, now she's helping them with the same thing on her own, with her own brilliant project. So without any further ado, I will hand over to our amazing speaker, Krissy Buck. Hello, Krissy.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. You know, Cambridge Social Media Day was one of the highlights of last year. I was in a different state or country every single month last year. And my trip to the UK was by far my favorite. But going to Cambridge Social Media Day, that was the first conference that I went to when I was over there, and everybody was so welcoming. And I just fell in love with the Cambridge social media community. And so I'm so glad to connect again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, more than happy to have you. Thank you for saying yes. And yes, thank you for joining us in kind of your morning when it's our afternoon. Thank you for putting the time aside. But yes, let's learn something about building online community.
Yes. So going back my bio, I started about a decade building community, and this was out of my faith. I'm a Christian, and our church kind of felt like there's something wrong with the Western church. The idea of building it and expecting people to come didn't really work anymore. You know, people didn't trust the church anymore. And so what can we do? And we just, these teachers that were, you know, in our space fell into our lap, and we started to learn from them what it meant to build community in our context. So imagine like your neighborhood or work or school, whatever that looks like for you. And we began to build this community, and it was just 5 families, and we had a network, you know, within a year of over 200 people. We really couldn't count everybody that we were reaching anymore, because it wasn't just only us reaching them, it was us reaching people who were then reaching people. And it didn't look like, you know, like door to door or televangelists. It really looked like loving people and being a blessing. And so, you know, we had a community garden, and we visited men who lived under bridges that were homeless. And we took all of that knowledge, and we then started to teach other people how to build communities within their own contexts. Fast forward, I went back to school when my kids were nearing the end of their high school career, and I decided to become a digital marketer. And during that time, I was networking, I was building my own personal community, and I met somebody who was working for the CEO of Quick. And I began working there just 5 hours a week doing their social media. So back then it was called Knox. And last year around March, Knox pivoted from another product that they were building into Quick. And within 10 months, we had built Quick's community so that there were there was users in 77 different countries. And I used what I had learned building community through my own personal faith mission to build out that community online for Quick. And so I'm so excited to share that today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Let's see if I'm doing this right. It's not going to let me, Lenka.
No,
that's okay. That's okay. It's very simple. It's just 4 C's. And if you're taking notes, I just basically, my slides are just summarizing. It's just something for you to look at mostly. But the first C, let's dive in. The first is create. Now, I know you're like, Krissy, how am I supposed to create connections, right? Because you're going to be creating connections. How am I supposed to be creating connections when I'm in isolation? I get it. I totally get it. But You need to be going out online and finding people who have like interests to your brand. And so you can do this by following hashtags and engaging with their content. You can do this by, joining groups. You can find people on LinkedIn and invite them to connect. I will warn you, this is not a time for the ask. Please do not DM them. That's spammy and nobody likes that. And that's a quick way to get yourself unfollowed or disconnected from somebody on LinkedIn. Go out and let's see, we talked about hashtags and groups. Just engaging with your community's content and finding people who follow them that you have a common interest in. There's Twitter. You can really have conversations on Twitter. Really, it's just about online networking, just going out and meeting people, creating those connections. And then the next C is connecting. So this goes back to hospitality. And we're going to learn about online hospitality. And so think about, I use this analogy in another talk that I do. Imagine somebody inviting you over for dinner and you have to decline because you have other plans and they just stop talking to you altogether. That would be pretty weird. But isn't that what we do every single day? We invite people to join us, connect with us online. Maybe they comment on our content and we don't engage back with them. That is horrible online hospitality. And so you need to practice engaging with people. And I say, and I'm not perfect, but I say, answer every single comment, even if it's just yes or yay, or just show them that you are acknowledging that they have put time into engaging with your content or have engaged back with a comment that you've left on their content. That's how you build relationships, and all relationships take work. And so you have to put in the work to build those authentic relationships. The third C is celebrate. So nothing speaks louder about your brand than what other people are saying about you. That word of mouth marketing, that free marketing that we all love. So share user-generated content often and celebrate content that other people are creating. And so if you see somebody, I know that my friend Tim Lewis, maybe he's watching right now. I know that my friend Tim Lewis has been sharing videos every single day through Amanda Webb's 30-day challenge. And he's putting in a lot of work. And so by celebrating, by sharing his videos, you are celebrating the content that he is creating. And also going back to that user-generated content. Look, if somebody is talking about you, maybe it's a review or a short video, or they taken a picture of the salad that you serve at your restaurant, share that. Share that before you share anything that you have created, because you may have put tons of money and work into a video about your restaurant, but that is not going to speak anywhere. It's not going to be as impactful as a selfie with a consumer in your restaurant. Does that make sense? So having that consumer share your restaurant with their community speaks louder than anything that you will ever create. And then the fourth C is collaborate. And that's what we're doing today, Lenka. We are collaborating. So I've invited my community to join the Cambridge social media community. And you guys have invited your community to join my community. And so it's a win-win. I say try to create some kind of collaboration partnership at least once a week, um, because that is going to help you build your community, but it's also going to help your collaboration partner build their community. And really, it's a win-win situation. So that is my 4 C's very quickly. And you have any questions for me? I really ran through that fast.
You really went, but it was so brilliant, so helpful. And I will just read a couple of comments because yes, Tim is live with us and he's been really helpful at just kind of commenting on what you've been saying. He said, don't practice social isolation online because it's easy to feel that comments are meaningless, but sometimes people just have poor social skills and just commenting and liking and sharing right now is even more important than ever because that's the only way right now we can connect. And he also said that content is 10x if it influences other people. So
yes,
so true, absolutely. A huge shout out to Tim, who is a great supporter of Cambridge social media and everything we do. And he spoke at the first event about organic Facebook marketing, and lots of what he talked about was actually this, like building connections, meeting people, networking with people online, stuff like that. So it's a really nice, actually, a synergy having both of you kind of online at the same time. One of the questions I often get when it comes to talking to people about online community building, they ask, well, where should I build my community? Should I start a Facebook group? Where should I go? Should I go everywhere? Should I go to Instagram? Where should I go to build my online community?
Yeah, so go to where the people are. So don't force your community to come to you. So this goes back to the beginning where my church was, we built this fabulous church service where we had coffee and donuts and these great programs for kids. But we were forcing people to come to us, and we weren't engaging with anybody except ourselves. And so really you need to, this goes back to, figuring out who your client avatar is or who your customer avatar is. Who are they? What age, what sex, what race, where do they network? Really diving down, figuring out who that person is. And everybody has their favorite social media network. And that changes. So you need to be fluid as well. And so find out where your avatar hangs out online, and that's where you should go build your community. But be prepared to move, maybe 6 months, maybe even 3 months, because people move through different platforms. 3 months ago, my favorite platform was LinkedIn. Right now, I'm back on Instagram and I'm spending a lot of time on Facebook because of COVID-19. It's just, I've moved with the culture, and you as a business owner, you need to be prepared for that as well. Yeah.
And I think Tim has a question, and it's kind of aligned on this. We talked about how do you build your own community potentially from scratch for your business, for what it is that you do. But obviously you don't need to start from scratch. You can start by joining other communities. And Tim's question is, how do you find communities, the right community online to network in?
Yeah, so you need to go back to going to where your people are at. So, finding that client avatar, there's that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe. You will find that community pretty quickly because it's probably where you're going to hang out yourself. And so, let's see, let me think of an example. Maybe you are an architect. And maybe you're an architect. So you probably want to be in groups where, people are talking about home ownership, or they're talking about DIY projects, or, maybe you want to hang out with builders online or contractors online. And so finding the groups that they are in, that's how, going back to that client avatar, it's so critical. It's key piece of finding your community.
Yeah. No, brilliant. I wouldn't agree more. Just trying to figure out who are the people that you're trying to network with, where do they hang out, and obviously then go where they are. And
Yeah.
we're talking about kind of the connecting part. My question always is, because I'm an introvert and I find it hard to open up and connect with people and find conversations like that. And often right now, lots of people will feel social anxiety, they will feel technological anxiety because there will be lots of tech coming at them. So do you have any advice for people who are kind of still new to social media, technology, networking, but really want to use this time to, be it for personal reasons or business reasons, to use social media, use technology, use networking to grow and connect? But they still feel they're at the lurker stage right now. They're watching, but they still feel that they don't know how to start actually proactively approaching people and starting conversation. Do you have any tips for people like that?
Yes, I was thinking about this last night, actually, that, I feel like at this point I have like a blue ribbon for networking, both physically and virtually. But I wasn't always that way. I remember the first time I tweeted somebody. I was so nervous. I was actually shaking after I sent that tweet. And it was, it wasn't a celebrity. It was just somebody on Twitter who was talking about something that I was interested in. And it was nerve-wracking. And think about the first time that maybe you've gone to a networking event and you've walked in and you don't know anybody, what that feels like. It's scary. It's super scary. Even if you know a couple of people, it's super scary. But you have to just start. You just have to start. And I would say, just start with comments on their content. Maybe going back to what Tim said, maybe it's just liking their comment. And then maybe the next thing, when you feel brave enough, leave a comment, and make it about that person. And so, maybe they're talking about banana bread that they made during isolation. So, just say, oh man, you did a good job. That banana bread looks delicious. So, offer them a compliment, make it about them. And then the next stage is you can take that online relationship to the next level. So maybe that's, joining their group, or, buying their course, or maybe it is, or maybe you're thinking, the opposite way. Maybe you're inviting them to join your course or masterclass. And so I would say, though, going back to the technology anxiety, and I'm feeling this myself, just being bombarded with groups and Zoom calls, and it's a lot right now. And so I would say, don't be too invasive right now. You know, just keep it to comments and liking right now. I think, those direct messages might be too much for people right now.
Fantastic. We had a question from Rachel. She's asking, any tips on building and supporting a community when they are actively part of a crisis? We are building a community for health and social care specialists, and they are clearly a huge part of COVID-19 crisis.
Yes. Is that Rachel Extance?
No, it's Rachel Way.
Okay. Well, hello, Rachel. So yes, so going back to, you need to serve your community. I used to call this at Quick rolling out the red carpet. And so figuring out what is their need right now. Mark Schaefer, he wrote a book called Marketing Rebellion. He's brilliant. He's actually sick right now with a coronavirus. He shared on a Facebook Live, we need to think about it like this. People are mourning right now. And so, now you have to be careful about your message. And so people who are dealing with crisis, so healthcare workers, social workers, don't think about, cheering them up. Now is not the time for that. Figure out what needs are. And so maybe for that, it would be, how can we support a nonprofit that supports these people? Or, so doing like a Facebook fundraiser to help support a nonprofit that then returns the giving to this group. Maybe it is a Facebook group that is a support group that is just there to let them rant. Maybe they just need a safe place to go to just talk about what they are facing day in and day out, but in a safe space that is not public to everyone, because they have to deal with, I know here in the States, social workers have to, there's privacy laws that they have to adhere by. And so just think of different ways, creative ways, out of the box ways that you can serve this community and really roll out the red carpet, really serve them in a tangible way that they can feel, because that's what they need right now.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's such a helpful kind of addition to the topic. We have another question from Mary, and Mary says, I'm sure it's probably a non-one-size-fits-all answer, but at a high level, what kind of time investment is required to build/maintain community?
Yeah, so you're right. It isn't one size fits all, but I would say, so the 4 C's, I forgot to mention this. This is a daily rhythm that I created just naturally, that then I had to go in and identify so I could help teach it to other people. But this is something that I did daily, except for collaborating. I did that weekly. And so daily find new connections, daily connect with the people that are connecting with you, and then connect with your new connections as well. Don't just connect and then ghost them. And then, celebrating other people. So celebrating and connecting will overlap a little bit. But if people are talking about your brand, then of course you would want to share that. And then the collaborating, at least once a week, but take some time each day to just check in on your social networks and engage with the people that are there. The biggest piece, the number one piece, and I think your guest a couple of weeks ago talked about this, is engagement. You have to engage. And so if you drop that, your community will then go find somebody else that is going to engage with them.
And if you're talking about engagement, so we kind of touched on the likes and comments. Is there anything else that we can do to show that we celebrate others, that we engage with others?
Yeah, so I had a friend who just posted a new YouTube video last night. And, I took the time, all 16 minutes, to watch that video. Now, not all YouTube videos are 16 minutes, but, taking the time to really serve your community is so critical. And they really feel it, and they will reciprocate by telling the world about how great you are, how great your brand is, how great your community is. You will really see an ROI on your time. And it's easy to throw money at Facebook ads. It's not so easy to spend that precious time that you have, but I urge you and encourage you to find some of that time and spend it on your community, because 1, it's free, and 2, it's so much more authentic than a Facebook ad to build out that community.
Right. Tim has another question, very interesting. Is there a limit to how many connections you can keep in touch with? I feel I spread myself too thin at times.
I do too. I have, 3 messenger groups that have 60 plus people in them. I have, countless Facebook groups that I'm a part of. Excuse me. I have my own community that I'm trying to engage with. And then I just have my friends and family. And so don't beat yourself up. If there's somebody that you realize, oh, I haven't talked to them in a while, you could reach out and just say, hey, we haven't connected in a while. How are you doing? It's no different than having a group of friends and realizing you haven't talked to somebody, for a few weeks. And so you phone them or text them. The same is, the same is true with your online community. People move in different spaces. Facebook is not one entity. Facebook has so many different neighborhoods and communities, and people move among those. And so it's okay to miss some comments. It's okay to, not talk to somebody for weeks or months. Just make sure that you're going back and re-engaging with them at some point.
Brilliant. I had a
among
question
those. And so it's okay to miss some comments.
Sorry, I clicked something I didn't want to click. My question was about the collaborate part. So obviously it is important to collaborate, but you also talked about, don't go for the ask right now. So how do you find, especially in the situation, the right balance between trying to collaborate and trying to find ways to work with other people, other groups and collaborate, but at the same time, just making sure that you are not stepping over this written line that would be a little bit too much to ask right now?
Yeah, so, well, I think influencers, so I have 3 steps to building a community. One of those is seeking out the influencers. Influencers have already built the trust in communities. I mean, that's why they're influencers, right? They've built these networks. Maybe they're just a few hundred, maybe they're hundreds of thousands of people who trust them and will buy the products that they talk about just because of that level of trust that they have built. And so I would say right now, look for those influencers and connect with them. Maybe going back to the restaurant, the restaurant example that I used earlier, maybe there's a food blogger in your community that you could collaborate with right now. It might be fun to do like a Facebook Live with them where, you make their favorite meal, but at a safe social distance, of course. But just think creatively about that. And then also make sure that you have built a relationship and trust with them. Our relationship, Lenka, is, I guess we're probably coming up to about a year, but I was introduced to you through Tim, who I had built a relationship with over the last couple of years. So, a trusted friend introduced the two of us, and then I came to Cambridge Social Media Day, and here we are today. So through trust, we are collaborating. And so if you meet somebody for the first time and you ask them, hey, you want to do a Facebook Live? They're probably going to tell you no. You've got to build trust with them, and that takes time. So, think about if you are just getting started, think about people who are already in your network. Think about your competitors even. Maybe there's something there that you could do that's fun. Everybody eats, everybody drinks coffee. And so, sharing that space online with them shows collaboration, and it shows partnership, and it shows that, we're all in this together. So thinking about the people who are already in your network that you have built trust with, and how you can do some kind of collaboration partnership with them.
And that goes to Tim's comment that says there are thousands of podcasts looking for people to sponsor their shows. And I would add that even though right now we're in virtual meetups, there are meetups and communities and groups who will be always looking, like our community, we're always looking for people to speak, to share their knowledge, to help educate our community. And obviously that worked with Quick, that if you are willing to help us and educate our audience, obviously, and you have an amazing product and service, that we want to shout out about what you do, because we know that what you do is really helping the community, is really helping the people. So it is a mutually beneficial. So there must be so many opportunities in everyone's life if you just look around. Yeah. Who are the people in your network, who are the people in your community, who are the people and organizations out there right now. There will be more of a charitable causes really needing any kind of help, and that way you can build very valuable connections and very valuable relationships that then can turn into partnerships and collaborations and be mutually beneficial.
Yes, all of that.
Oh, fantastic. I will wait for a little more if we have any further questions. I haven't noticed. If I've missed your question, please let me know. I know there is a question from Zareen, but I'm not 100% sure what Zareen means. She said, what does Krissy say about WordPress? But I'm not sure what exactly she means by her question. So I asked for clarification. I will see if we'll get any. What do you think about WordPress?
I work, so when I went back to school, I talked about this at the beginning. When my kids were in high school, which is the end of their education here in the States, I figured, my job as a mom is almost over. And so I had built this website out through WordPress, actually. This was like 2010, I think, maybe. And so what I would do is I would do projects around my house. It's something that I like to do in my spare time. I've always had this dream of having a home furnishings boutique. And I would decorate spaces in my house. I would take pictures of it, and then I would share it with my community. And that community grew globally. And so I went back to school to learn how to build a website. And it didn't last very long, because then I started learning how to program and I hated it. And so I switched my degree over. And so I learned videography and photography and graphic design. And part of that program was a digital marketing course that I just loved. I aced it. I went, it wasn't even hard work for me. It was fun. It was a fun class. And so that's where I'm at. But that's where I was WordPress.
Yeah, so Zareen then added using it as an online engagement platform. So WordPress website, how they can serve as an online engagement platforms.
Well, I think, if you're blogging and, this follows, SEO guidelines, you want to at least blog, once a week, just to keep at least once a month, honestly. But if you really want to build engagement and really raise your SEO score, you want to keep that website fresh. And so if you're blogging at least once a week, that keeps your website fresh. And there's some other stuff that goes along with that to build that SEO score. But at the end of your blog, if you ask a question, how do you feel about X? Share in the comments. And you do that consistently, you're going to start to build a conversation down in the comments. And so make sure that you are engaging, that you're answering every single one of those comments. And again, don't beat yourself up if you miss one. But engage with those comments. People are asking questions, especially if you're doing some kind of tutorial. How did you do X? Can I use eggs in this recipe? Can I substitute this instead of that? So make sure that you are answering those comments. And they might be months old, right? Blogs they're evergreen content. They're on the web forever. So make sure that you are going back and checking your older blog posts as well.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So I've asked people for their last question. I'm still waiting, but in the meantime, could you tell us a little bit more about your project, Digital Neighborhood?
Yes, so that is a good name for it, is project. I just really love teaching how to build community. And I've really struggled with whether or not I should monetize it. And I think I've just come to the decision that no, I just want to teach people what I know about building authentic communities that multiply. And so it's so funny. I was in London in this tiny little hotel room, and I was writing up a talk that I did for Agorapulse called How to Leverage Your Digital Community, Your Digital Neighborhood. And it was while I was sitting there eating Christmas sandwiches, my favorite, I found, that I decided this is what I want to do. I want to teach other people, just as a passion project, how to do what I do with Quick. And so that's what I've begun to do, is build out content and talk about that. So right now my focus is on the church, just because people can't gather in community physically. And so I've partnered with a few people, Owen Video, Phil Mershon, and Rob Alasavis, and we've talked about how to take your physical church community online. And but again, I love how community is fluid and it goes through different contexts. And I don't think that that you should be stuck in one place. This goes back to when we were talking about, what platform or where should you build your community. You need to be prepared to get up and move to the next platform, because your community might move over there. And so, yeah, so that's where I'm at today. And it's fun. I love it. I love teaching. It's so much fun.
Great. And you just gave me an idea for another question when you said you need to be ready to move where your community goes. So obviously, yes, social media is evolving, it's changing, communities go from one platform to the other. How do you make sure that when this shift is happening and your audience is going to different platform, that not only that you're there, but that you're being very clear and you're taking your audience with you, your community with you? Do you have any tips and tricks or any ways of making sure that you keep your community wherever you go with you?
Yeah. So I think social listening is key. So if you start to see your community engage more on Instagram than, let's say, Twitter, you probably will be spending some time in a couple of different places. That time will overlap on both platforms, but making sure that you engage with your community. And I would say don't overdo it. Andrew and Pete talk about the 90-10 rule, and I agree with that 100%. There's a saying that my friend Carrie says all the time, go with the goers, and I've adopted that saying. And so engage with the people who engage with you. And so if you see the most engagement, on LinkedIn, then go with the goers, go with the people who, are going with you. And so if you don't see engagement like on Facebook, make sure that you have a presence there. Maybe you're posting a few times, you're checking comments, but don't spend the majority of your time there. Don't put work into something that isn't going anywhere. If you are having authentic conversations, over on another platform, that's where you need to be spending your time.
Fantastic, thank you. And you mentioned social listening, which is such a lovely segue for me to promote our next Facebook Live, which will be on Friday. Not Friday, I keep saying Friday, but it's Thursday. Because Friday is Good Friday, it's Easter, so obviously we're not doing Friday. We're doing Thursday at 12 p.m. and we have our community manager, Tana, talking about social listening. So it will be the same format. We will have Tana on Facebook Live here in a group, and she will share some of the tips and tricks and tools on social listening. And our time is slowly running out, so I will last time double check the questions if we have any last minute questions. But before I would just want to say a huge thank you, Krissy, for taking the time to spend with us, to share your tips and tricks and knowledge of how to build a community and how to be part of a community. It's been so helpful to me and to the audience. We've got some beautiful comments. We've got about 15-20 people watching us live. So that's amazing. Thank you, mainly Tim, for being so engaged and really commenting and being part of our Facebook Live as well. And thank you everyone else who's watching. If you have any further questions or anything that pops to your mind later on, don't worry, let us know, comment on the video or drop us a message or drop Krissy a message. I'm sure that one way or the other, we will make sure that you will get an answer, because I'm one of those people who I'm sucking it in. I'm just a sponge getting the knowledge in, but I will get a question tomorrow afternoon when I'm on a walk with the dog. I will be like, now I have question. I will never have a question in the moment in the room. My brain is slow, but I will have a question 2 days later. So if you're like that, don't worry. If you don't have question right now, that's fine. If you have any follow-up questions, then just let us know and we will definitely get back to you. I want to say a huge thank you to Krissy. If there's anything that you want to share with the community, if you have any resources, anything that you want our community to support, to help you with, if there any cause that we could give our hand to, just let us know.
Okay, yeah. So a couple of resources. You know, if you are a reader, I would say read Mark Schaefer's book, Marketing Rebellion. It's brilliant. As I was reading it, I was saying, yes, yes, these are all the things that I am saying. He just says it in a different way. But if you're looking for a further resource about how to build community and what that means for your brand and why you should do it, because I think it's critical. It's not just now during the coronavirus. People are distrusting of brands, and really you need to be building that authentic community anyway. But if you start now, then when things go back to normal, and they will, you have already built out a community. The second one is by Marcus Sheridan, and it's called They Ask, You Answer. And so this talks about, you know, answering those questions up front that your customers might have. And so really serving them, and it's about inbound sales, but really it's about serving. And then I'm going to share also a link to my slides in the comments so that you guys have that summary of today's talk.
Thank you so much, Krissy. Wanted to say huge thanks to Rachel and Tim and Mary and Zareen and everyone who had a question, who had a comment, and everyone else watching. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm sure we'll see you somewhere around soon online for the time being. And hopefully when things get back to the new normal, then hopefully see you around in person very soon.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. Thank you, everybody.